Do you have kids ages 7 and under and are looking for a multi-sensory, hands-on approach to learning? I encourage you to check out EduPlay Learning. It includes a ton of activities, ideas, engaging videos with Miss Christine, and all the supplies and materials delivered right to your door, in addition to a community that's going to support you and encouraging you, and endless moments to make memories that will last a lifetime. Check out EduPlay Learning on Instagram for more info and ways to sign up. Link is in the show notes below. Welcome to the Educating Kids and Connecting Families podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to provide your family with encouragement, inspiration, and connection. I'll equip you with resources and expert advice to help you effectively educate your kids in a fun and meaningful way. If you value education, quality family moments, and community, you're in the right spot. We'll discuss all things parenthood, education, homeschool, ways to balance it all, and so much more. Join us each week as we empower you to raise kind, confident, and independent kids while building community and connection. Welcome to episode 42 of Educating Kids and Connecting Families. I'm your host, Christine Furman, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you that are listening and spending some valuable time with us today. Well, in our last episode, I was talking a lot about preparing for natural disasters or just being prepared in general. What are some things that you could have in your home to be prepared for things such as the power going out, not having water, flooding, or hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever the situation may be in your area? What are some things that you can have on hand to be prepared and also prepare your family for these situations that happen? And during that episode, I did share a few activities that you could do with the kids during these times of no power, no water, maybe you're stuck inside. So today I wanted to dive in a little bit more on fun activities that you could do with your kids that require minimal materials and no power at all. So we're going to share a little bit more about a lot of activities that you can do with your kiddos. And the reason this all came about was because a lot of us on the East Coast were without power for days due to Hurricane Helene. And as we speak, Florida is preparing for another hurricane. So I just wanted to really share some activities to help pass the time while making memories that are going to last a lifetime. So I know that these events are traumatic. I know that there's a lot of preparation that happens. I know that there's a lot of people that either are evacuating or they hunker down and say, okay, we're in it for the long haul. One, maybe they have nowhere to go. Two, maybe other people are relying on them in their community, or they have a really good community, or they have the resources to be able to kind of ride out the storm. So, what I hope to do in this episode is really just offer some activities that you and your kiddos can do while you are weathering these storms, and maybe it's a power outage. And what are we going to do when the power is out? Or maybe we do have to, evacuate and we're going to be in a hotel room, or there's just so many different situations. So, I just want to share these few activities. And I know last episode I talked about a deck of cards and something so easy that can be packed anywhere, right? We can have multiple decks of cards throughout our home, maybe some in the car, maybe in a quick travel bag. They're so easy. They don't require much space at all. And there's so many things that we can do with them. So last episode, I shared different activities that you can do with your kids. I'm going to share those again in case you missed them. And I'm going to add a few other ones as well. So one, I talked about sorting, especially if you have younger kiddos. You could have them sort by color, by number, by shape. You can say all the red cards over here, the black cards, or the red with the hearts, and just 4 different categories there, or whatever that may be. You can really do a ton of sorting You can also do patterns. You could show them different color patterns, number patterns, a lot of variations here just using some cards. Also, you can do some addition and subtraction problems and even word problems. The Queen of Hearts had 5 diamonds and she lost 2 diamonds. When you have the Queen of Hearts there, and then you have your 5 of diamonds, your 2 of diamonds, and how many are left. And you would have the 3 of diamonds, as a choice. So you could just have fun with this and really turn a deck of cards into a variety of activities. That's like an educational way that you can use a deck of cards. Other ways is Go Fish, Rummy, Crazy Eights, War. I know I used to play that one all the time. Another one that is a relatively new game for us, it's called Golf. It may be a variation of something else, but we have a specific deck of cards that's golf. But I have also played this with a regular deck of cards. And that really is focusing on positive and negative numbers. And you may think, like, oh, my kids are so young, they're not going to be able to get that. My kids, it took them a little bit of time. We had to do it with them, but now they are so good at like quick subtraction and quick addition, where it's like, oh man, I wish I would have had a game like this trying to learn positive and negative numbers, because it really puts it into like real life perspective. So it's really a cool game to play. So if you've not heard of that one, definitely check that out. You can use a deck of cards or you can purchase an actual golf deck of cards. So that one's a fun one. Another thing you can play is Uno. That's always another fun game that you can play that is color coordinated, numbers, different things like that, strategy. So I love to be able to sit around the table and put all the distractions away. Obviously, if the power's out, distractions are gone most of the time, right? Except for what's going on around you, like outside, the storm and different things like that. But it's just really fun. I love sitting around the table with my family on even just a regular day, a Friday evening or Saturday afternoon, and we just play cards together. And it's really nice to be able to put our phones away to the side and just focus together as a family and play these games. So, those are a few games that you guys can play with cards. Other things that you can play, and I talked about this last episode as well, were board games. So you may have a closet full of board games. I know we do. We have a ton of board games that rarely get played. But if you're sitting around to wait out the storm or you don't have power, maybe this is a great time to kind of dust off those board games and teach your kiddos some skills. So maybe your kiddos are young and they want to play Candyland, Shoots and Ladders, checkers, things like that, just really teaching them some basic games. But maybe your kiddos are starting to get to the next level. And some of the games that kind of popped into my mind were chess, teaching them each of the pieces. What do they do? How do they move? Just really teaching them the strategy of chess and just always thinking ahead. So I think that is such a great game for kids to just even have a good understanding of the game. Well, what are these pieces and how do they move? And some of your kids, they may get into it like a lot. I know my son, he loves to play chess. He loves to play Monopoly. Those are like his 2 big favorite games to play. Where my daughter and I, we can take them or leave them, but I really do love that she knows how to play them. So then that way she has those skills. So the other game I was saying was Monopoly. I know that game could go on forever. I remember a game that I played as a kid and I was like, I'm done. I never want to play this game again. It's so long. And now here we are. My son, he just loves Monopoly. And we're always trying to find like the express version of Monopoly. But that's a fun one to play, really teaching your kids about the properties, about money. Again, they're good games to play, but then also be focusing on them counting the money, them subtracting and adding the money. So it can also be learning opportunities as well. The other game that I remember as a kid was Life. Do you guys remember Life? Where you had the car, you had the little person, you got married, you had kids, you had a house, and I just love that game. That was a fun one. Again, it could be a long game, but that was a fun one as well. So some of these games are things you may already have, and some of them you might not have. you could definitely check your local thrift store for some of these games and be able to find them. Of course, make sure they have all the pieces. You don't want to get it home and realize you don't have all the pieces. But the other thing that you could do is you could create your own game with your kids. And I actually remember doing this when I was in the classroom it was a math class. And I said, okay, we're going to make our own board game. They loved this. They had so much fun creating their own game because it kind of like goes outside of the box, right? Like, I want you to think of your own game. Not here's a game we're going to play that's already created, that someone already developed. No, I want you to use your imagination, your creativity. And I've seen my own kids after we've played a game, they're like, oh, I have a different game that we can create from this game, or here's a variation that we can play. And I just love seeing them be able to do that. So you don't even need anything fancy. Piece of paper, they can use anything for game pieces, draw the game board out, come up with the rules together, and just have fun coming up with your own game with your kids. So a lot of these things definitely could help pass the time as well. A few other things that I was thinking of that I know my kids enjoy, and I know that I just had a celebration for my 40th birthday, and I wanted it to be fun for the families. So it was the neighborhood families that came by, and it was just very simple, very low key. But I wanted the kids there to be involved. I wanted it to be fun for adults and kids. So I came up with some minute to win it games. Actually, I had some ideas, but then Alex, I let him kind of go with it. And he was researching different games and he had so much fun showing the games to the kids. So that was actually fun to see as well. But and some of the games that I saw could be adult games. It could be after the kids go to bed, and you could turn this into anything that you wanted. We made this very G rated. It was a lot of fun to do with the kids. They had a blast doing it. So, what we did was it was tic tac toe with red solo cups. And it's kind of a variation if you've ever played flip cup and tic tac toe. So, like I said, we made it very G rated. We didn't even have drinks. We just were flipping the cup on the edge of the table. And if you flipped it over, you then were able to stack it onto the tic tac toe board. So, how I made the tic tac toe board is I used painter's tape, and you could put it on your table or a plastic table, picnic table, or whatever. What I actually did is I took a plastic tablecloth and we put the tic tac toe board on that. So then that way there was no risk of it messing up my table. And then I could just throw the tablecloth away when we were done. So it served two purposes. It served for the tablecloth for the party. And then when we were ready to play our game, we were able to just use that tic tac toe board and we were able to play that way. So what we did is we took a cup, we put it on the edge of the table, we had to flip it over, and then we had two different colors of cups. And we had two teams, so on opposite sides of the table. And if you flipped it over, you could stack it wherever you wanted on the tic tac toe board. Well, if someone on the other team flipped it, they could stack it on top of your cup. So you just kind of kept playing until whichever team got three in a row and then they won. So we actually played that for quite a while. The kids loved it. The families love it. The parents loved it because it was simple and it was easy. And it just was a little bit of competitiveness, but enough fun that it really wasn't so competitive. So we enjoyed that. And then I also bought ping pong balls and we did a little ping pong toss. So again, just a little bit of water in our cups. You can make these any variations depending on who you have with you at the time. But we just had a lot of fun with this. It was just very much like, all right, just toss your ping pong ball in, and just had a lot of fun. But again, you can fill it with whatever. You could make it very family friendly where we're just kind of going back and forth and setting up cups on each end of the table, filling them with water, and then tossing the ping pong ball in it. And then you can move those cups. Whoever gets them in all of the cups, then they win. So again, just something very fun, especially for the kids that are getting a little bit older that are like, well, what are we going to do? Well, let's play something different. Let's play something fun. And maybe, just maybe, we're preparing them. I don't know, maybe. But for me, it was just a lot of fun. Another game that involves cups, or get a balloon and you would get the cups and you would line up like 4 or 5 cups. And then they would have to blow the balloon up in the cup and they would lift the cup up while the balloon was still inflated and stack it into the next cup. And then they would just have to keep stacking them into the cups. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, we just moved them and continued to fill the cups up and stack them into one pile. So that was another fun one. Again, very simple balloons and cups. Another thing, especially my son Alex, he really loved was like moving items from one place to another, whether it's marshmallows, cereal, pom poms, coins, you could use straws, you could use spoons. I think one of them, he did a coin and he rolled the coin down and it had to get into the prongs of the fork. So just so many different games that you can come up with. So say you have cereal and you have a straw and you have to blow it from one end of the table to the other, or one box to the other, or you can have marshmallows on a spoon and you could just pass them from person to person. So many different ideas and games using just simple items you may have in the pantry, or the kids may even have in their craft room, some pom poms, things like that. Another thing was a rubber band game where if you have a rubber band and you practice shooting it the furthest, again, I'm just thinking simple things to do with our kids that will help pass the time and just have fun with them. Sometimes I think we get so wrapped up and we're so busy doing all the things. I know for myself, I'm like, all right, we got to get up. I have to do my morning routine. We have to have breakfast. I have to get ready for the day. We have school, lunch, and then I have to work, and then activities and dinner. And it's like our days can go by so quickly and they're filled. I mean, we have a lot of things, a lot of commitments that we need to accomplish throughout our days. So when we do have this time, whether it's a storm that is happening or maybe it's a weekend and we're like, oh, we have, half an hour to an hour. What can we do in this time? Here's something that you can do, some fun games that you can do with your kids just by using some things around your house. So I hope you guys enjoy some of these. Other things that we can do are make paper airplanes. So, kind of like the rubber bands, you can make a paper airplane, see who goes the furthest. And you can even add a little school into here, a little education. You can measure, get a tape measure or a ruler. If you don't have either of those things, just measure with the same unit. So, let's say you're throwing paper airplanes and you want to make it go from one end of the room to the other end of the room. Well, maybe get one of your shoes and line it up and say, okay, well, it went, you know, 10 to 15 shoes across the room. And then how many shoes did it go the next person? So even if you don't have actual tape measure or a ruler, you could still measure using something as long as it's the same size over and over again. So there's a few different activities there that you can do regarding the distance and measurement. This could even work for cars, racing cars down the hallway and see which car goes the furthest. Again, simple things, but fun things. Other things that I was thinking of was an obstacle course. Kids love obstacle courses. So some of the skills that you can incorporate into your obstacle course would be skipping. Skipping and hopping are great skills for your kids. And sometimes there's skills that we don't think about doing with them. So practicing and showing them how to skip, it may take a while, but eventually once it clicks into their brain, then they'll get it. So practice skipping, practice jump roping, practice hopping, and you could even jump rope without a jump rope. Or if you have a jump rope lying around, practice with your jump rope. Make sure the fan's not in the way or kiddos aren't in the way. But allowing them to be practicing with a jump rope. The other thing was hopping. So hopping, and it could be on one foot and then switch to the other foot. It could be hopping like scissors, like a scissor hop. So you're switching feet in front of you, or you could hop front to back. And again, you can use something like a jump rope or a piece of painter's tape or even a ribbon. And that can be on the ground and they could practice jumping back and forth over that. Again, very simple things to add into the obstacle course or just do a quick movement break would be some of these ideas. Another thing would be tossing items into a bucket or a bin of some sort, and it could be anything. It could be a ball that you have, it could be a paper ball, it could be pom poms, stuffed animals, even. So, again, adding these things into an obstacle course where you have to go from one room to another, and here's different things, but just making sure you're setting expectations at the beginning, make sure everyone knows the rules, make sure you're showing them the example first, and that everyone's on the same page so no one's going to collide and run into each other, and allowing everyone to have fun with it. So, I hope those are some good ideas for an obstacle course. Another thing that I like are scavenger hunts. I love scavenger hunts. I love scavenger hunts outside, but obviously, if we're inside with no power, what are we going to do? Let's have one inside. So there are some that you can do by color. You can do scavenger hunts by the first letter. Say, I'm thinking of something that starts with the letter C, or I need you to find me something that starts with the letter C. And anything that starts with the letter C, they can bring to you or show you. Or it could be a category. I am thinking of something that you would have in your bathroom, or you would wash your hands with this, or, giving them some clues, or giving them just a color. I want you to find me anything that is the color red. So these are just some ideas for scavenger hunt. There's so many different things. And I would love to know, this is definitely our question for the week, is like, what are some of these things that you think you will add into your family? Like, what are some of these activities that you'll do with your kiddos? But what are some other ideas? Like, as I'm talking about these ideas, what are some other things that kind of sparked your mind and like, oh, Christine, this is a great idea. So I would love to know that, because I'm always looking for new ideas, new activities, and I love sharing them with families all over. So please, in the Facebook group, Educating Kids, Connecting Families, be sure to join us and share any additional ideas that came to your mind as I was talking about these activities that you can do with your kids. All right. So, a couple more things. A fort. Who doesn't love to make a fort? I know for us, we have the nugget couches. I have two different ones, and they love making forts with them. They make them in my bedroom using different pillows, or the couch, or the ottoman. They make even obstacle courses with those and play music and come up with different little routines that go with it. So I love that. I know I remember seeing the nuggets in our living room, and they would stack them up on the couch and use the couch cushions. And sometimes it's like, it's fine. Like, let them have fun, because we can always put it back together again. I know sometimes it's like, oh, don't mess with the couch cushions. And yes, of course, sometimes I've had my moments like, why are these couch cushions always a mess? But then sometimes it's like that they're having fun and they're not hurting anything. And those things can be picked up very easily. And so sometimes I just let it happen. So think about forts and blankets and sheets and tables and chairs and all different ways that you can have a fort. Maybe you can play games in your fort. Lots of fun things to read if you have a lantern or a light. So many different things. Again, these are just memories that your kids are going to be like, oh, remember that time we made a fort? Remember that time the power was out and we played games in the evening? Or just, I really just do believe that these are the moments that really stick with them. And it's just about family time. It's just about time with each other that really makes these memories stick with them. So, if it's safe to be outside, I want to share a few outdoor games that you can play, or if you have a large indoor area. So, I know for us, when the hurricane hit, it hit between 3 and like 6, 7 in the morning on a Friday morning. But then after that, after the rain cleared, it was beautiful. Obviously, the wreckage was not beautiful, and people were helping cut down trees and we had no power. So we were trying to figure out, well, what do we have to do? What's the next step? But the weather was nice outside. So I invited the neighborhood kids over and we played kickball. Now, some of them didn't know how to play. And I said, okay, watch. Let me show you the rules. And that's what I love. I love being able to take these games that maybe we take so easily for granted, right? Where we say, okay, kickball or baseball or soccer, basketball, say, okay, go ahead and go play. But if they don't have the fundamentals of these games, they don't know how to play. And if no one ever teaches them the fundamentals, how are they going to learn how to play them? So we played kickball. I set up the bases and I showed the kiddos that were younger that didn't know how to play, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to line up here. I'm going to roll the ball. You're going to kick it. And then I showed them where they're going to run to. We're going to run to first base, second, third, home. And I had to lay the ground rules too for the older kids. I was playing with kids from all ages. And it was like, all right, we're not throwing the ball. We're going to make sure you touch them with the ball. Or kiddos, you're just going to kick it and you're going to run and you're going to listen for someone to say, go, 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 or stop, and giving them those rules. So then that way they know what to expect. Same thing with baseball. It could be T-ball. You're just showing them the rules of the game and telling everyone the rules of the game before it starts. Soccer, basketball, all of these games that can be played easily outside, but there's rules. I don't know all the rules for soccer or all the rules for basketball, but I want to give them the fundamentals of the sport. So then that way, when they do go to play, they at least have an idea and we can continue to develop those skills. I can continue to teach them more about basketball or teach them more about soccer or tennis or hockey. So I remember my kids were playing basketball, and sometimes the coaches were first year coaches. So they didn't really have a good understanding of the game. They were volunteering to coach the kids. And I remember talking to my husband and I was like, oh my goodness, I just want to go out there. And he's like, well, you don't know that much about basketball, not in a rude way, but in a very much like he's played basketball for a lot of years. I played one season my senior year and I didn't even play the whole year because I got hurt. And then that was it. That was my sign. I was like, I am not meant to play basketball. I'm just going to sit here on the sidelines and I'm going to cheer everyone on. And I was like, you're right. Like, I don't have the same skill set that you do when it comes to basketball, but I can teach these kids the basics. Let's talk about passing. Why do we do this? What is the reason? And I think that's where my mindset always goes. What's the reason behind why we're doing something? When it comes to basketball, well, why are we passing it to someone? Why are we trying to get open? What are we trying to do? What's the object of the game? Because I remember for myself, I would be thrown into a sport and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I played soccer for one day. Same thing. I was not the best soccer player. I didn't understand the game. And that's all I could want for my kids is I want them just to understand the games, any game. So being able to do that for our kids and teaching them the rules and just having fun with it. We don't have to keep score or anything. We're just going to show them this is a layup for basketball or show them the very basics of tennis, front hand, backhand, serving. Again, this is all if it's safe to be outside and maybe you have a large indoor area to go to, maybe it's a gym or maybe you have space in a basement or somewhere. You can play these games. So these are just some ideas. One other idea is bowling. This is a great one because no, you don't need bowling pins. You could have them. I know we have plastic ones that, I don't know, over the years, I feel like we've acquired many different bowling pins of different characters, whether it was Paw Patrol or princesses or Frozen, whatever it was. But I know right now I just have a colored set. And I keep that because whenever those kids came over, I had younger kids that enjoyed kickball for a little while, but then I set up the bowling and they were so happy because they're like, oh, all I've got to do is roll the ball. So you could have bowling pins or you could just have water bottles and you can have a ball. I would say like a paper ball, maybe even like a foil ball. And you can use anything really. And this is a great game to practice math. All of the games could be, practicing any skills, but bowling especially is good for math because you could practice how many do we have? You knock these about this many over. How many do you have left now? Bowling is great for that. So that's another good one. And the biggest thing is just overall, you know your kids best. if timing them will make them frustrated. And maybe some days you're up for that conversation and saying, you know what? Yeah, sometimes there is going to be competition, and sometimes you're going to like it, and sometimes you're not. Or some days we're going to say, we're not timing anything because everyone's either walking on eggshells, we're a little bit moody, we don't want to have that conversation, we don't want our kids to be upset. So, you know your kids best, you know the situation best. And is it something that we want to time or keep score, or is it something we just want to have fun with, and just have it very low key? But I hope that these activities were very helpful for you. Just some fun activities that you can do with your kids that you probably have a lot of these items around your house already. And a lot of them are just going back to the basics. Some of the things that we did as kids and just allowing our kids to experience them. Another one that I'm thinking of is hopscotch. Being able to draw hopscotch with sidewalk chalk and being able to show them that. So, again, just going back to the basics with some of these deck of cards, board games, sports, cups or spoons, or things in your counter to do different games like that in the kitchen, or those games could be anywhere. But I hope that you guys enjoy them. I hope that this helps to bring some ideas while, you may be weathering a storm, or maybe you're just looking for some ideas to do with your kiddos over the weekend or during the week. I know sometimes as a homeschool family, it's like, oh, we just need to shake up the schedule a little bit. And maybe just doing one of these games with the kiddos is a great way to just shake it up a little. If you have younger kiddos, definitely focusing on patterns, sorting, counting, reading. These are all things that are really good for your kiddos. They're going to really love those kind of things. And then if you have a little bit older kiddos, maybe something a little bit more competitive, a little bit more engaging that they're excited to really join in. But I hope that you enjoy these. Just most of all, I hope that you stay safe. Regardless of the situation, like I said, it may be hurricanes or tornadoes or storms that are coming your way, power outages, water outages, whatever the situation may be. I just really hope that you are all staying safe, and just want to shed a little light and a little bit of positivity of ways that you can engage and entertain your kids while you go through some difficult times or just need a little bit of fun to do with your kiddos. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to please subscribe and share this with a friend. Be sure to invite people into our community and follow us on social media for more ideas, because I'm going to keep them coming your way. And I always love to hear from you. So if you have an idea on an upcoming episode that you're like, Christine, I would love for you to talk about this topic, please reach out, let me know, and I will make it happen. But you can join us in the exclusive Educating Kids and Connecting Families Facebook group. That link is in the show notes below. And let's keep this conversation going. I would love to know what games your family enjoys and which ones maybe you'll be trying. And remember, like I said, if I was sharing an idea or activity and you're like, I have another variation, I would love to hear it, because I'm always up for new games and new ideas. Well, let's stay connected and let's continue to build a supportive community for you and moms around the world. And one last thing, if you are thinking about homeschooling and you need curriculum, ideas, or would just love guidance on your journey, please reach out to me directly, because I would be happy to speak with you individually and set you up for success on your educational journey. Thank you for listening to the Educating Kids and Connecting Families podcast. I appreciate your support and cherish each and every listener. If you found value in this episode, download it, share with a friend, or leave a review. If you're interested in even more resources for you, activities for your kids, and connection, I encourage you to join our exclusive community, Educating Kids and Connecting Families with Christine Furman on Facebook. You can find the link and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. I'm looking forward to connecting with you and supporting your family.